Welcome to Impactful Advice by Begad. Today we'll be unpacking the EdTech sector. Data has shown that the EdTech market has grown from 90 billion US dollars in 2020 to 160 billion US dollars in 2023. So this is a market of particular interest, and helping us to unpack the EdTech sector, particularly from a South African perspective, I am joined by someone who has a wealth of experience. He has worked for 10 years in the EdTech sector, and he has worked in various roles, including stakeholder management, product management, program management, and project management. And I would like to welcome Victor to the podcast. Victor, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's good to be finally Mr. Zivai.
Yeah, no,
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
We've tried having you here, but it just didn't work. But
Yes.
we're very blessed to have you.
Thank you. And looking forward to the discussions for sure.
Okay, let's get right into it. So,
Yeah.
how did you get into the EdTech sector? Like, what inspired you to get into this important sector?
It's quite an interesting journey, and I might actually say a very unexpected and unconventional journey into the EdTech space. Mainly because I come from the social sciences background. I studied social sciences right up to master's level, and when I finished my studies, an opportunity came up, and I was offered a job to train education officials on how to leverage technological tools to promote effective use of data. And it is during that experience that I realized my passion for EdTech. And I actually also got to understand that one doesn't need to be a tech expert to make significant impact in this space. And I think what has also sort of helped me thrive in that space is my ability to connect technology to people at a human level. So that's been my journey in the EdTech space.
Yeah, no, you talk about something very important there, the human interaction with technology, and that is something that people should look forward to in the EdTech sector. But based from your experience, right? What are some of the projects or programs that you've worked on that are of particular interest to you, or that you think people should be aware of?
Without doubt, I would say that my most rewarding project that I've worked on in my career so far is Africa's largest data-driven initiative, which currently operates in South Africa, which is known as the Data-Driven Districts Program. Also called the Triple D. And so, I think that's definitely been one of those projects where I've seen the impact of education technology and how it can help to improve educational outcomes.
And how impactful has that project been?
So this program, the Data-Driven Districts Program, it integrates data collected at school level with an online dashboard tool, and it visualizes that data. It actually makes data easily accessible and available to education officials so that they can make informed decisions and in turn help to improve the outcome of learners. In terms of its impact, definitely we've seen some incredible success on a global scale with this DDD program. And I must emphasize that this success has been enabled by this partnership between the public sector and the private sector, to try and leverage the use of technology to improve educational outcomes. So it's been really inspiring, but also encouraging to see that partnership working together towards achieving the same goal.
No, that's great. Sounds like a very important program.
Yeah.
And what are some of the factors that are contributing to the successful implementation of EdTech programs?
Very, very, very important question. And I think generally in education technology, and any solutions that come from that space. For me, and let me say for us as a program, why we've gotten it right is we started by asking the right questions from the beginning. More often than not, you find that some tech companies make mistakes by asking, how do we get people to use this technology more often? And that is a problem fundamentally. And I think that for us, why we've been able to be successful is because we're asking the right question. And that question is, how can we develop solutions that can be used to solve educational problems using technology? So that's important. You need to start by asking yourself the right questions. Instead of asking yourself how you can get more people to use that technology, it's about asking, how do we solve problems in education space using technology? I think the other reason why this program has been successful in relation to EdTech implementation is the fact that we have a strong and committed as well as visionary leadership that champions the integration of using the DDD dashboard in the education sector, and that helps a lot. If you don't have people that actually champion that, it's difficult to actually drive change. And I think it has helped in many respects to have key influential people in the sector who are advocating for the use of data, who are advocating for the use of technology. The other reason is, ensuring that you have adequate support systems that will, enable officials in the sector to acquire the necessary skills and capabilities to gain the confidence to use this technology. Because, there's always a little bit of uncertainty when it comes to adopting new ways of working. And sometimes you need to overcome that. And one of the ways to do that is to ensure that there's ongoing professional training and development that supports and builds the confidence of officials to use that technology. And that's one of the factors that has helped the program to succeed in as far as the DDD program is concerned. Maybe if I will highlight the last one, it would be stakeholder engagement and buy-in. Being able to demonstrate the tangible benefits of using education technology in the sector, and being able to secure the support and buy-in from them, and that's required various ways of engaging with stakeholders and approaches and methods in actually engaging them to be able to sell the value proposition of education technology, and more specifically this online dashboard tool, and be able to demonstrate how it solves a problem for them in the education sector. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I just want us to talk about the challenges, and one that comes up most often when you talk about tech is data privacy. And how have you guys been approaching that problem?
So I think it's important to highlight, that the rapid evolution of EdTech in some respects has outpaced, the implementation of regulatory frameworks. And because of that, it's created uncertainties around the accreditation, the quality assurance, and data privacy. So there's no doubt that with the increase in use of digital tools, safeguarding data and ensuring privacy and security is crucial and paramount. And I think that a lot of work has been done so far. There's still some room for improvement for sure, but I think that a lot of work has been done to try and address some of the concerns that people might have around data security and privacy. Obviously, number one is the fact that companies and people that are collecting data are putting more effort to communicate openly how this data is being collected, how it is going to be stored, and how it's going to be processed. And that gives people some assurances that, if someone is collecting data about my child or myself, in that instance, I am able to understand, or I know upfront how it's going to be stored and how it's going to be processed. The other thing is, there's been some regulatory frameworks that have been developed. And now, the various role players in the EdTech sector are being compelled to, comply with these regulatory frameworks. You have, for example, the Protection of Personal Information Act. You have the Promotion of Access to Information. All of that has been put in place to ensure there's adequate protection of people's data. And I think also, just to highlight the other few things, is we need to, in terms of the DDD program, one needs to make sure that there's adequate access control measures in place, and that only authorized personnel have access to information that they're supposed to have access to. One needs to conduct regular audits and all of that, and all those are things that I think, in as far as data privacy and security is concerned, can be done to address those things, but also ensure that these digital tools are not subject to manipulation, from people that want to use it for purposes that it's not intended for.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sounds like there's a lot of work that is being done in the background to ensure that people's information is protected. So one thing that I can also attest to is the low user retention when it comes to EdTech apps and tools. Studies have shown that EdTech tools have a very low user retention, something like 12% globally. And I'm one of those people. Sometimes I get excited. I see an EdTech app being advertised. I get so excited. I'm like, let me download this. I want to learn a new skill, whether it's coding, whether it's a language. And then a week after, like, you just see my user engagement, my engagement with that app just going low until I just stop using it. So how are you guys tackling the issue of user retention?
So that's an ongoing thing. Let me start by saying that it's not a once-off thing that you can address at that point and forget about it. Why? Because the needs of the users, the people who use these educational technological solutions evolve. They change. They're constantly changing. So that means that we have to be on our toes. We have to be agile, and we have to make sure that there is an open feedback loop that allows information to flow through from the user to the one that's developing the solution. And there are people with the adequate skills to understand the business needs of the sector. And that we're agile enough to respond to those needs timeously. And I think, that's one thing that this data-driven districts program has done excellent. Being able to, number one, keep the appetite by, releasing and producing features that keep users engaged. The technological advancements that are happening now are helping in that regard, because almost every week now and every month there's something new. There's something new about artificial intelligence. There's something new about blockchain. There's something new about virtual reality and all that stuff. So there's always an opportunity to leverage all this new technology and to keep users engaged and to keep them attracted to these products that are, being put out there for them in the market to make their lives easier. So I would indicate that, those are the two most important things. Number one, as an organization that's implementing that EdTech solution, you need to be agile. And secondly, if you're going to keep people engaged with it, you need to ensure that there's an open feedback loop that constantly collects feedback about how you can improve the experience of the end users in terms of using that technology. Yeah.
Nice. And one thing that is related to what we've just spoke about is change management, right?
Sure,
I
yeah.
want you to address the issue of the matter of change management. So I grew up with teachers. The community that I came from, there were a lot of teachers. My mother was a teacher. My uncles are teachers. And you find that these are people who went into the profession because they were passionate about teaching kids, making an impactful change in the community. And when they entered the profession, tech was not as big as it is these days. And you find, based off that, there is a lot of resistance to using EdTech, particularly in the classroom setup.
Yeah.
So how can people work through a change management process that can at least ensure that there is better engagement with EdTech tools, particularly from the teaching profession?
Traditional teaching
perspective,
profession.
Yeah.
Very important question. I'm tempted to ask, why are you not a teacher? Because you come from that background.
No, I am a teacher. I'm just not a professional teacher, but
I see.
I always take an opportunity to teach wherever I am. I'm just not a classroom traditional teacher.
No. I think, it's a very important question. And I think one thing that must be said is that, managing change, particularly in terms of implementing educational technology, often requires a cultural shift. And managing this change and overcoming the resistance that you might experience, from education officials or people that are at the receiving end of these new technology, is often challenging. It's not easy. That's something that I have to acknowledge. At the same time, it doesn't mean we sit back and say, well, we're not going to get this right because we are dealing with people that have been trained in the old way of using traditional methods of teaching practices and all of that. It doesn't mean that they can't be receptive to new ways and ideas of working. And there's many examples that one can use. I mean, in the past, there was no WhatsApp, for instance. But now, there's WhatsApp and every single person knows how to use WhatsApp. You have to ask yourself, why has it been possible? Because it's addressing a need, the need to communicate globally, and the need of people to stay in touch with each other. And the same way is how you actually want to approach things when you're implementing EdTech solutions. You need to be able to be sure that you're addressing the real needs, right, with that solution. That is the first thing you need to have in place. Those are the basic fundamentals, right? If you're addressing the need, then your chances of successfully implementing that solution are higher, right? So that's number one. Number two, you need to be able to demonstrate to these people the tangible benefits of using the solution. What is the upside? What's in it for me? That's always the question that we have to answer to officials in the education sector when we are presenting to them new ways of working. How is it going to benefit them, right? So, for instance, if I were to use an example with this Triple D program, in the past, the traditional ways of analyzing learner performances, you collect data manually, you open your Excel documents, then you have to analyze, and it's very time consuming. And in some respects, it requires a specific set of skills which are not always in place.
Yeah.
Now, with this platform, it reduces and eliminates the need for all of that, right? It automates the process of collecting data. It automates the process of analyzing data. And so the tangible benefit for them is I'm going to spend less time, number one, collecting data. I'm going to spend less time analyzing data, and I want to spend more time on actually implementing interventions to improve learner outcomes.
Yeah.
Right. So it's important if you're going to overcome resistance and if you're going to be able to change the culture to, number one, make sure that you are addressing the real needs, and two, make sure that you are able to demonstrate the tangible benefits of using that solution. What's in it for those people that have to use that solution for themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
So in the introduction, I spoke about some of the impressive numbers. The market growing from 90 billion US dollars in 2020 to 160 billion US dollars in 2023. And forecasts are showing that by 2029, the market will be as big as 350 billion US dollars.
Wow.
So that's definitely shows that there is an appetite for technology in the education sector.
Yeah.
So could there be a business case for South Africa and the broader African continent when it comes to growth? But in answering that, maybe you can also take us through some of the drivers of this impressive growth.
Certainly, there is a case to be made. There's a business case in the EdTech sector. You will recall that, during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a surge in demand for these solutions.
Yes.
Because of the circumstances that we had to operate under, right? And I think that hasn't necessarily stopped post the COVID-19 pandemic. And we're seeing more and more institutions, right, from primary school to higher learning institutions, adopting the use of digital tools. We're seeing digital classrooms. We're seeing learner management systems. We're seeing all sorts of ways of implementing online learning. So that in itself, for me, is an indication of a strong business case in this market, and that we are going to continue to see more and more a growing adoption of digital solutions in the education space. Another thing is there's obviously a huge demand to solve the educational inequities, right? I think we all know that South Africa has a history of institutionalized inequality.
Yeah.
Right? And that has played a part to the quality of education that people have access to. And more often than not, it's based on, resource availability, etc. And so EdTech can be seen as a way of reducing that gap between the rich and the poor. Yeah. And if it's invested adequately, if it has the right kind of political will and support, it's certainly we can see it solving some of these educational challenges. There's also technological advancements, you name it, what's happening with artificial intelligence, what's happening with virtual reality, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And that's not going to stop. Like I said earlier on, week by week, we are seeing new ways, new technology coming up. People are coming up with solutions. And so that presents a unique opportunity for us to leverage technology to be able to ensure that ultimately all of us have equal access to good quality education. Yeah.
No, that's that's great. I just want us to talk about funding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So studies also showing that funding for EdTech companies is starting to decline. I think in 2023 it declined by 56%. Is it something that we should be worried about?
Look, I don't have the facts, but I can certainly make some comments about why I think funding might be on the decline. I would say it's possible that the market is saturated.
Yeah.
the surge in demand that took place during the COVID-19 pandemic meant, there's a lot of startups and, initiatives that
Yes.
people came up with as solutions, to kind of circumvent the challenge that was presented to us, which was COVID-19 pandemic. And so, the excitement and hype around use of digital tools to ensure that education is not disrupted too much, probably is kind of plateauing now. And now that there's so many solutions in the market, it means that, there isn't enough room for everybody to actually succeed in this space, because there can only be so many that can be implemented at the end of the day. And we can't take all the digital solutions in the market at present and make use of them. So I would say maybe the market is saturated. I think also maybe investors are concerned about the return on investment, and maybe are a bit more cautious and careful. They want to see evidence of impact before they invest in something, because there's a lot of ideas and solutions at play in the market, and perhaps they don't want to invest in something until they've seen that it could actually achieve impact at scale.
Yeah.
And perhaps maybe the last one I would point out is competition is very stiff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of role players in this market. And obviously, if you're a startup company that's trying to come up, that's kind of stifled by well-established firms who have been in the game for a long time. So I think those are some of the things that could explain the dwindling funding in this sector, in my view.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So when you look at South Africa in particular, there's massive potential.
Absolutely.
As you were saying, I think South Africa has the highest internet penetration in Africa. Currently sitting at 71%. And then from an African perspective, we do have the youngest population globally. I think our average age in Africa now is 19 years compared to 35 years globally. And I think those are some of the things that we can leverage off EdTech going forward. So how would you then, based off these numbers, how can South Africa then position itself as a leader in the EdTech sector? And what are some of the things that we can look forward to?
So I think it's important to mention that, education has always been used I mean to say technology has always been used in education. The difference now is we're using a new form of technology, a new different type of technology, which is leveraging internet.
Yes.
But I think at the same time, we must be careful about making the assertion that EdTech is going to solve all educational problems. We mustn't get distracted from getting the fundamentals right. And for me, if South Africa is going to position itself perfectly in this sector, those fundamentals need to be in place. And number one of that fundamental is we must invest in the infrastructure. We must ensure, particularly in the rural areas and undeserved areas, that there is reliable internet connectivity. People have access to devices, right? Yeah. You cannot leverage the use of technology if you don't have that basic in place, right? That's number one. Number two, I think we need to promote more of public and private partnerships. We've seen how it can scale the implementation of solutions, particularly with this data-driven districts program, where if you have both the public sector, the NGO sector, the private sector sharing the same vision and pulling in the same direction, the solutions they are implementing can be implemented at scale because you're leveraging resources from different sectors. So I think we need to ensure that we start promoting more public and private sector partnerships. Then the other one is probably ensure that we secure sustainable funding. I think without sustainable funding, it's difficult to actually achieve the desired impact. And more often than not, sometimes you find that, okay, this program is going to be funded for 2 years. And I don't really think 2 years is enough to achieve sustainable impact. And so these tech solutions in the education space require regular maintenance, support, and one is to ensure that there's sustainable funding in place if you're going to succeed in integrating the use of technology. Then the last point I would mention is we probably need to reform curriculum, both in terms of the teaching practices and how learners learn in classrooms. And we need to start integrating the use of technology in how we train teachers today. That way we will be able to ensure that teachers become more confident in using this technology and they can prepare our future leaders with skills that are vital for a rapidly evolving economy. Those are the points I would mention in that respect.
No, definitely looking forward to the growth of EdTech.
Absolutely,
No, Victor, thank you very much for your time. I think this was a very insightful conversation.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to more of these discussions.
We'll definitely engage more.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for joining us on Impactful Advice with Birgit. For more information on the EdTech sector and any other sector that you're interested in, please follow us on our social media platforms. We are at Birgit across the various social media platforms. And till next time, thank you.